What happens if you only level up Bloodtinge in Bloodborne? Hey everyone, Streamer Mind here, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be doing something pretty wild in Bloodborne. Yeah, you heard that right. We're turning this game into an American high school simulator. Now, for those of you who don't know, Bloodtinge is the stat that impacts the damage of firearms, the Madaro's whistle, and even the Shikage and Bloodletter weapons. So, today, we're going to see if it's even possible to make it through Bloodborne with just a bunch of guns and a whole lot of pain. But before we get started, let's quickly go over the rules of this run. 1. I can only level up Bloodtinge, no other stats, nothing else. 2. No melee weapons unless they've got a gun built into them. If I do use them, it's strictly for shooting. This means that anything that isn't a melee weapon can be used, including Madaro's whistle. 3. The cum dungeon, I mean the chalice dungeon, but you get the idea, is fair game for buying bullets and vials. As we all know, inflation is a bitch. If you're new to the channel, make sure to hit that subscribe button. I'm gunning for 20,000 subscribers by the end of the year and I'd really appreciate your support. Alright, now that everything's set, let's dive into this madness and see how far we can get with only a bullet-based strategy. Meet Luigi. Well, Gigi for short. An Italian young man of noble origins. One day, Luigi found himself in need of a back surgery to finally put an end to the pain that had been haunting him for years. So, what does he do? He signs a contract with an insurance company run by an elderly man in a wheelchair, hoping that a little paperwork would solve his problems. But little did Luigi know, he'd been scammed in the most outrageous way. Instead of being sent to a real hospital, he was sent to the vet. The nurse, with an air of dismal politeness, gave him the worst news.
I'm sorry to inform you, but your insurance won't cover the cost of your surgery.
It was right about then that the morphine started kicking in and everything went blurry. When Luigi finally came to, groggy and confused, the first thing he noticed was that his back pain had only gotten worse. Worse still, his right arm had lost all function. He couldn't even wield a butter knife. Now, filled with a mix of rage and disbelief, Luigi swore revenge against the CEO of that crooked insurance company. No longer content with just his own suffering, he embarked on a quest to hunt down everyone involved, destroying anything or anyone that stood between him and justice. And so, our journey begins. After finally arriving in central Yharnam, I wasted no time starting to scavenge for supplies. Blood vials, bullets, anything I could find. These resources were going to be crucial for surviving the upcoming fight with the cleric beast. Luckily, there were a few scattered around the area, just waiting to be picked up. This also meant that I had to be extra careful. No room for mistakes. If I took a hit, that was it. There was no coming back from wasting precious resources, especially not with what was waiting for me ahead. After my unfortunate death, I finally made my way to the Hunter's Dream. Here, I picked up the Hunter's pistol, my weapon of choice for now. With the trusty gun now strapped to my side, I headed back to central Yharnam, ready to scavenge for bloodstone shards. There are 10 shards scattered around central Yharnam, but I only picked up 8, the exact amount needed to upgrade my gun to +2. Once I upgraded, I unlocked the elevator that would take me to Father Gascoigne for later. I wasn't quite ready for that showdown, but it was nice knowing I had a shortcut opened up for when the time came. I also paid a visit to the best girl for a couple of homeward bones and the coolest gesture in the game. As if it wasn't enough, I grabbed the music box from Gascoigne's daughter, and with all that in my pocket, I was finally ready to face my first boss. The cleric beast has a ton of health, and with my damage output not being the best, I had to be smart about my approach. I started by aiming for its head to break its posture, which allowed me to deal more damage. Even so, my damage still felt lacking, so I had to be careful not to waste too many bullets. I also tried to bait its jump attacks to take advantage of some extra instability damage, but the real challenge came when I got hit. Every blood vial I used for healing meant fewer bullets for shooting, which was a real issue. Despite the long fight though, once I found my rhythm, it wasn't as bad as it seemed. Of course, this wouldn't be a Streamer Mind run without a near choke moment towards the end, but I quickly regained composure, and with a few well-placed shots, the cleric beast finally went down. It was such a smooth victory that I didn't even need to pick up the extra bullets scattered around the arena. After defeating the cleric beast, I used the blood echoes I earned to stock up on blood vials. Then, after a brief moment of simping for the doll, I decided to level up my Bloodtinge, feeling more prepared to take on Gascoigne. Hey buddy, how's it going?
Beasts all over the shop.
Wait. Are you seriously talking about your wife right now? Oh no. What happened to your wife, Gaspacho? Gaspacho? Here's the thing, if you somehow manage to make him listen to Taylor Swift's new album 3 times, he'll transform into a beast and take a dramatic leap off the map in the attempts of unaliving himself, because Father Gascoigne isn't a Swiftie. After taking down the Father of the Year, we are rewarded with the Blood Gem Workshop tool, just before heading into the Cathedral Ward. From the cathedral, I made my way all the way down to Old Yharnam to grab some valuable loot, like the 3 blood shards dropped by this terrifying little nightmare. After that, I headed back to the clinic, where I found this cute puppy that decided to follow me outside. Then, with a well-timed grab from the werewolf, I managed to clip through the closed gate, unlocking the path to the Forbidden Woods. Now, this skip isn't as straightforward as I made it look, so I'll drop a link to a tutorial in the video description if you want to try it yourself. Unlocking the skip also gave me the perfect opportunity to finally give the werewolf a nice warm colonoscopy. Anyways, down and down we go. I made sure to grab all the items in the poison swamp, including the antidotes hidden inside the cave. I was also running low on vials, so I picked up a few on my way to the elevator. Then I decided to have a little fun with Walter, convincing him he could fly. What a fool, right? I did the same with his friend, who dropped the Madaro's whistle, the only hunter tool that requires and scales with Bloodtinge. I started using the whistle to take out the giant snake piles in an attempt to farm some shards, and as you can probably guess, the casting time is incredibly slow, making it a very situational tool. But the upside, it hits like a truck when it lands. I continued my hunt for upgrade materials, picking up every twin blood shards I could find. After gathering enough, I headed back to the hunter's dream, where I used my sex doll, wink wink, to level up. She always knows how to get me to rise to the occasion. I bought some bullets and made the decision to grab the most broken gun in the game, the repeating pistol. I could already feel the power coursing through me. Or so I thought. But then, disaster struck. I didn't realize at the start that the Noble Scion class only comes with 9 strength.
They ask you how you are, you just have to say that you're fine when you're not really fine, but you just can't get into it because they would never understand.
Barely enough to lift a spoon, let alone wield such a magnificent weapon. In that moment, I felt the weight of every other challenge I'd overcome suddenly crash down on me. There I was, standing in front of the repeating pistol, unable to use it. The sheer heartbreak. It was like being told you could fly only to realize you forgot how to walk. Now, I finally understood why other creators had opted for the War Veteran class. They knew. But I wasn't going to let this setback break me. With determination, I upgraded my Hunter pistol to +5 and returned to Old Yharnam. Even though I had been robbed of my dream weapon, I was still ready to fight. The world threw its challenges at me, like being pinned down by a machine gun-like barrage reminiscent of D-Day. But I kept going, and after surviving the storm of bullets, I firmly told the gentleman to stop shooting me and unlock the shortcut for later. Even without the repeater, I was still able to kick ass. I then made my way back to the Cathedral Ward, opening up the rest of the area while grabbing as many blood echoes as I could. I was burning through bullets like they were going out of style. Honestly, it felt like I was outspending the entire US military complex in a year. But eventually, I unlocked the last shortcut. On my way to Hemwick, I stumbled upon the saving grace of this run, the Bone Marrow Ashes. These bad boys increased the damage of Quicksilver bullets by a lot. That was a real game changer. And of course, just when I thought things couldn't get worse, thanks to the wonders of PlayStation, my character decided he was too tired and just sat down to take a break. After quickly recovering from the incident, I spawned the boss, but instead of facing her head on, I quickly used a Hunter's Mark to bail out and headed back to the Lantern. Once back in the Hunter's Dream, I spent my insight, and since my vials and bullets were running low, I decided to pay a visit to the one and only Blood-starved Beast. Now that is the hottest girl in town. I whipped out the whistle during her first phase, using the acrid blood as bait to get her to stand still long enough for the snake to sink its fangs into that, well, let's just say hot piece of ass. Unfortunately though, one tiny mistake could mean grave consequences.
Dai, ma porco Dio!
But hey, when you're dealing with something this fiery, a little danger is just part of the fun, right? So, the quest to become stronger began, and with it, a journey full of highs and lows. First stop, Hemwick's Charner Lane. Now, I definitely did not die to the easiest boss in the game twice. I just had a bit of, what's it called? Skill issue? Yeah, that. But once I got over that, I served the 2 witches up for dinner, courtesy of my trusty snake. Next, I headed back to the clinic to grab the Caner's summons, and with that in hand, I decided to whistle for a cab. When it came near, I asked the driver to take me out of there. But little did I know, the cabbie had other plans. Instead of heading to safety, he brought me to a gulag in Crimea. And all I could think was, I was in Canehurst for one thing and one thing only, to get rich. So I went full on thief mode, swiping every item in the castle that I could sell. I also made sure to grab all the blood chunks casually lying around. I picked up the Evelyn, even though I had zero intention of using it. I then raided the library for more chunks and snatched up the executioner's gloves while I was at it. And let's not forget the knight set, perfect for selling and making some serious cheddar. Once I returned to the Hunter's Dream, I sold off all the loot and used the profits to upgrade my Bloodtinge to 38. With my newfound power, I was finally ready for a rematch against the Blood-starred beast. I started off by using the whistle in phase 1, and as you can see, we were dealing some massive damage. It was glorious. But I wasn't about to get too cocky. Knowing the second phase would be brutal, I made sure to keep some antidotes on hand, because a single hit would poison me and that was not going to happen. During the second phase, I kept my distance, relying on my gun and the power of bone marrow ashes to really amp up the damage. With a well-placed bullet, the hardest boss I'd faced so far finally went down. With the crackhead out of the picture, I finally gained access to the Chalice dungeons. This meant I could now use the Cum dungeon to farm echoes for heals and bullets. Goodbye to all the useless farming for resources. Killing BSB didn't just give me an infinite money glitch, it also unlocked the rest of the Cathedral Ward. This allowed me to grab the Silver Sword Hunter badge, which is going to be a game changer, because it lets me buy infinite bone marrow ashes. And let me tell you, that's going to make all the difference in the world. And with that, it was time to turn the day into the night. Once Amelia decided to go full furry on me, she tried to give me a hug, but I wasn't having any of that. I summoned my trusty snake to take a bite out of her bony arms, and to my surprise, the snake was actually really effective at staggering her. However, it only took one smack to the face from her to take me down. Ow. I made a few more positioning mistakes on my following attempts, but eventually I nailed down a solid strategy. I waited for her to launch an attack while strafing around her. Then I summoned the snake to infinite stagger her, just keeping the pressure on. When she finally broke out of the stagger, I made sure to shoot her a few times in the face. And just like that, the fairy threat was eliminated from Yharnam for good. Back in the woods, I unlocked the shortcut to the shadows, grabbed the rune, and quickly realized that my +5 pistol just didn't pack the heat against this boss. The damage was a misfire, so I decided to cut my losses by heading back to Central Yharnam to acquire the Tonsil Stone. While I was there, I gunned for every upgrade material I could find, then I allowed myself to be picked up by Mommy Longlegs over here. She gave me a little kiss, and I woke up in my old high school, running around with my gun, looking for things to shoot. See? I told you this was just like America. I grabbed some clothes for resale purposes and pulled the trigger to get the heck out of there. I made my way to the Nightmare Frontier, where I grabbed a few single shards as well as the 3 twin shards I needed. Once I got everything I required from the Nightmare, I returned to the Dream, upgraded my pistol to +7, and invested on a few more points into Bloodtinge. Then I headed back to Canehurst to pick up the items I missed, including the Warm Blood Gemstone and the 2 blood chunks dropped by the Scurrying Nightmare. Finally, I equipped the Blood Gem into my pistol, adding a sweet 13.5 extra damage. After touching the skull in the cathedral, I finally got the DLC key in the Dream and made my way to the Hunter's Nightmare. I ran past most of the enemies, well, at least until I got pinned down by another machine gun, but I eventually unlocked the shortcut, so everything turned out great. I picked up the blood chunks in the area, but then I hit a real roadblock, a ladder, guarded by a hunter at the base. And with my low vigor, I might as well have been a piñata, because 1 or 2 hits from this guy was all it took to send me back to the land. It became a vicious cycle of climb, get knocked down, repeat. The ladder started seriously feeling like the final boss. Each time I tried to ascend, The hunter was there, ready to ruin my day. But after what felt like an eternity of failed attempts, I finally made it past him. Once at the top, I lit the lantern before Ludwig, grabbed the last 2 blood chunks I needed, and upgraded my pistol to +8. With this newfound power, I was ready to shine a little light of democracy on the shadows of Yharnam, and hopefully not get shot in the face this time. For this fight, I focused on the shadows with the katana, aiming for parries to maximize the damage on my second shot. I made sure to use my bone marrow ashes sparingly, saving them for the other 2 shadows. Things didn't go perfectly at first. I got hit in the face a few times as usual, and the fire orbs cast by the other shadow were a real hassle to deal with, but I managed to keep my composure. Once I dealt with the katana wielding shadow, I turned my attention to the Dark Souls 1 build, and I used 3 bone marrow ashes to chip away at a large portion of his health, then finished it off with a couple of regular bullets. The real challenge though was the Candle Boy. He's the most dangerous because once his 2 companions are dealt with, he summons his snake's friends to complicate things. Luckily, a well-timed parry, followed by a shot and 1 bone marrow ash, was all it took to take him down. Once I was able to shine like a superstar and eliminate the shadows of my haters, I returned to the dream and hit 50 Bloodtinge. From here, any further increases would give me diminishing returns in damage for my pistol, so it was time to focus on making the most of what I had. Next, I arrived in Bergenworth, grabbed the key to the Lunarium, and dove headfirst into the fight against Rom, the vacuous potato. I tried serving the weird-looking spider to my snake, but for some reason, it just wouldn't bite. I guess even an arcane beast has standards. It'll eat just about anything, but apparently a spider that looks like a giant lumpy turd is where it draws the line. Standing still to invoke the snake also left me completely exposed to Rom's little spider's attacks, which was definitely not ideal. I learned that lesson the hard way. During my testing phase, I did manage to stagger Rom once during his teleportation and phase transition. It felt great, but of course I couldn't replicate it when it actually mattered. I don't understand what it did different there, so I decided to turn back and focus on Rom, dodging his AoE attacks and meteor strikes while carefully timing my shots. The damage from my pistol was solid, and after a bit of persistence, it was just a matter of time before the giant potato finally turned into a giant turd. Now that I had the Unseen Village unlocked, I went about my usual routine of gathering materials to increase my damage. I used a charged R2 attack from the saw cleaver to clip through a fence and skip most of the area, grabbing the chunks scattered around. Just to clarify, using the saw cleaver like this isn't breaking the rules since I'm not actively fighting any enemies with it. Then a black shadow eclipsed the red moon. The one reborn descended from the black hole like a piece of crap hanging from some ass hair after you think you're done with your morning routine. The one reborn is one of those bosses that's easy under normal circumstances but can be a serious problem in a run like this. I quickly found that using the whistle on each of its limbs twice kept it infinitely staggered. The Madara whistle, dealing purely arcane damage, was still doing nearly 1,000 damage per hit, which was a nice surprise. After a few quick gunshots, I finished him off, and just like that, we were ready to move on to the end of the base game. After the one reborn fight, I dropped into the Nightmare of Mensis. I grabbed 3 chunks here and unlocked the elevator because why not get some loot while I'm at it. Took the shortcut to the lamp, and then it was time to chase down the biggest creep in the entire nightmare, Mikolash. I ran after this weirdo into his arena and started unloading bullets on him, making sure to keep my distance. I chipped away at his health until I triggered his second phase, but I wasn't about to play fair. So I decided to cheese his ass from the balcony, because honestly, who has the time to chase down a guy who looks like he's constantly going to send you a dick pic? Fuck Mikolash. Now that I only had a few bosses left in the base game, I decided to take care of the Brain of Mensis, tossing it off into the void like last year's Call of Duty, and grab the Blood Rug and damp Bloodtinge gem. God damn it, these names. With those in hand, I returned to the dream for a final weapon upgrade to +10. And next, it was time for Murgo, the wet nurse. Honestly, after seeing her, I was ready to ask her for her number just so I could take her out for dinner. She's got that I'll stab you in your sleep vibe that I cannot resist. Damage was decent considering Murgo is one of the tankiest bosses in the base game, but I kept my distance and easily cleared her first phase. Then came the real fun part, running circles around the arena every time she summons her clones. It was like playing tag, except instead of "you're it," the message was more like "try not to die while dodging 50 clones in this nightmare scenario." Once her clone show was over, I unloaded on her with everything I had, giving her more holes than a Swiss cheese, making sure she wouldn't get another chance to pull that trick again. And of course, I defeated her on my first try. Why? Because I am that good, or lucky, or both. Now that Murgo was defeated, it meant we had completed the any percent run of the base game, but there were still a few bosses left that we could unleash our unlimited power onto. So I decided to pay a visit to dear Amy. Then I made my way to the upper cathedral ward, where I absolutely melted the celestial emissary like it was a piece of butter in a frying pan. And of course, the same fate awaited the Brietas. At this point, we can definitely say that we are overpowered as hell for the base game. But what about the DLC? Well, that turned out to be awful, but perhaps if we use the Cum dungeon to farm enough echoes to reach 99 Bloodtinge, things will be better. Truth is, there was nothing more to do to improve our damage without tapping into the Chalice dungeons, and I wasn't going to farm for hours for a mildly better gemstone than what I already had. So I man up, grew some hair on my balls, searched for my inner strength, and walked inside that room one last time.
Finally got it, man. Oh my god, finally got it.
The rest of the DLC was no joke either, but no boss came close to the level of pain I had to endure with Ludwig. The crazy horse reserved me a special treatment this run. The living failures, other than being my people, weren't really a problem. I soon learned that if I just used Madaro's whistle on this particular failure, I could spawn kill him indefinitely. I finished off the fight running around the sunflower like a maniac, trying to avoid their spaghetti-like shaped arms, and with a bit of luck I made it through the fight, which usually at low vigor is a pain in the ass. But no matter, as I had to say goodbye to my brothers and sisters and go violate and do unspeakable acts to a corpse. Honestly, this has been one of the most fun fights with Maria. Parrying her is still the most satisfying thing in the world after getting stepped on by her. I wasn't dealing amazing damage, so it ended up being a fairly long fight, considering that usually you can steamroll her completely under normal circumstances. Also, the music, settings are on point. If it isn't clear enough, I love this fight. There was an awkward moment towards the end where I couldn't get a riposte on the last parry, and I also failed to notice that I ran out of bullets, so I ended up awkwardly panicking trying to make blood bullets while she was there giving it her all with 1 HP left. But once my brain started working again, I finished the job. And now, with the bimbo out of my life forever, a giant screaming baby was left on my path to find the CEO of that filthy insurance company. What the fuck? Well, that was unfortunate and definitely not done on purpose. And now, we finally stood in front of that piece of shit who scammed us. And he will pay. He will pay for everything he's done.
Tonight, Gammon joins the hunt.
Unfortunately guys, I've lost the footage of the fight against the moon presence, so you'll have to imagine really hard what it looked like. Anyways, this run was fun. The difficulties encountered with the lack of stats actually pushed me to play better and smarter with the tools I was given. And I also proved that you don't need to have a gun that shoots 2 bullets to dismantle an oppressive system. A regular gun will do. Alright guys, this is all I've got for today. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, let me know with a like and comment what you would like to see me do next. Consider subscribing if you haven't already, and thank you guys for everything. I will see you next time.